Hi, my name is Jacob Luttbeg.
And I'm Langston, and this is our project on the ABAC School Forest Christmas Tree Tract Zone 2 invasive species removal.
So the purpose of this project was to completely eradicate Chinese privet along the roadside as well as other native vegetation that hinders vehicular access. In addition to removing said species, we were also supposed to remove any invasive species such as Chinese privet as well as Japanese climbing fern that are located within 33 feet or half a chain from the roadside. The project parameters, all of our work is supposed to be due by September 11th, 2020. We have 10 hours per person to complete said project. Also, what was specified by our stakeholders is that each invasive species is desired to be cut at ground level. That way, no stumps would protrude from the ground and possibly damage vehicle tires, as well as it would keep foot traffic safe for people that travel without the area.
There's a broad range of materials that we used, ranging from multiple sets of loppers, shears, bow saws, and spray bottles. In addition, we used a 4.5-gallon Stihl backpack sprayer, along with a combination of a Mazapir and an Escort/glyphosate mixture. There is a wide variety of invasive species present at the site. In our section, there's two main species that we were concerned with, which was Chinese privet and Japanese climbing fern. Since both species can be detrimental to the fire regimes and forest of our section, we decided that they must be removed. In Chinese privet's case, we decided this was the most important to attack because it has a strong propensity to impede vehicular traffic and foot traffic. Originally, our main efforts were actually to target just the privet. However, upon further evaluation of the site, we decided it would be both beneficial for us and the stand to opportunistically remove Japanese climbing fern from the site, just as a side goal.
One of the herbicides we selected for our application methods was a Mazapir. This herbicide is foliar and soil active and attacks the plant's metabolic processes through acting as an amino acid inhibitor. This herbicide effectively just stops the production of amino acids within the plant, and as a result, the plant tissue dies. This herbicide is not only effective on herbaceous weeds, but it also attacks woody vegetation, both of which are actually the invasive species that we are trying to target. Japanese climbing fern categorized as an herbaceous, and Chinese privet categorized as a woody vegetation. Another reason why we selected this herbicide was due to the fact that coniferous species of trees are resistant to its effects, so the slash pines that are within the surrounding area will not be negatively impacted by our treatment.
In addition to a Mazapir, we also use an Escort glyphosate mixture. We chose to utilize the Escort glyphosate mixture in a backpack sprayer to accomplish two main goals. First, to opportunistically remove any Japanese climbing fern that may be present on the site. In addition, our second goal was we used the backpack sprayer to aid in the cleanup objectives of our project. The Escort glyphosate mixture was an excellent choice for our management objectives because it is resistant for conifers and grasses, and it will typically not damage them through our efforts. Treatment methods. For our treatment methods, we decided cut stump, a Mazapir solution would be the best way to go for our site. Most of the vegetation had a basal stem diameter that was small enough that it could be clipped with loppers. However, on the occasional stem, it was necessary to use a bow saw to cut the stump. It is very important that all stumps were cut down to ground level in order to improve accessibility to the site. In addition, cuts were required to be made flush with the soil surface. This is due to the fact that when the cut is flush, it allows for a greater absorption of the herbicide and prevents runoff. Using the cut stump method allowed for precision targeting of undesirable species. Therefore, we found this very important to us. In addition, it resulted in a very high level mortality and really accomplished the management goals we found important. As aforementioned, we also used a backpack sprayer to clean up missed undesirables and Japanese climbing fern.
Lastly, muscadine grape along the roadside was removed not with herbicide applications, but we manually had to pull it down due to how thick it was and how tied up it was within the invasive species, Chinese privet. So we pulled that down and pulled that in within the half chain that was required by our stakeholders into the stand. There are a couple of issues that arose while we were conducting our class project, one being that precipitation posed a threat to the efficacy of our herbicide treatments. So in order for the herbicide to take effect once applied, there needs to be an adequate amount of time for it to dry in order for the plant's vascular tissue to take it in and to, well, allow it to be systemic throughout the entire plant body and allow the plant to die. If there is a precipitation event immediately following, the efficacy of the herbicide is compromised. So in order to avoid that, we chose days where there was no rain in the forecast and there would be, as said before, an adequate amount of time for it to dry. Another issue that is concerned with herbicide applications, specifically with cut stump, is that the herbicide needs to be applied within 20 to 30 minutes after the stump is cut. Otherwise, herbicide won't take effect at all. One last issue that we found was that in wet conditions that succeeded precipitation events, rainfall, whatnot, there's a section of road, of the main access road that connects to Adams Road that leads into the school forest that is rutted out, and there are concerns of vehicles being lodged within that rutted out section as we approach the stand. So, like before, to avoid that, we just worked on days that weren't really within close proximity to those weather events and where soil conditions were dry. So after our project was completed, the area in which we worked on, we noticeably improved not only vehicle access, but we also removed the majority, if not all, of the invasive species within the half chain from the roadside. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, we were not able to complete the entirety of Zone 2. But, however, within the area that we worked, I feel that me and my group member did a good job.
Future continuation of vehicle access requires consistent and monitoring and removal of the invasive species and native species within a half chain of the area. If there's a long-term lapse of this monitoring, then the invasive species will rapidly take over the area again. Therefore, consistent monitoring within a half chain of the roadside is extremely essential to our management objectives. As you can see, this video shows the aerial photography of an untreated section versus the treated section. This untreated section lies just adjacent to our zone versus our treated area, which is basically desiccated of all vegetation other than our pine trees. As you can see, it took a lot of work to get to this point, but we're really happy with the way the results came out.